Gotta have content.
Something, because we're live now. I don't know what I'm gonna say today. I completely.
Oh no.
I was thinking like we could talk about tarot card readings and stuff and astrology,
Right.
but I don't like that stuff. So that was a terrible idea.
I don't know anything about it.
No, could
I
not tell
forgot
you.
to send you the picture I worked on.
Can you get a full? Can you get like a what's it called? A full hand when you play tarot, and then
I think it's like Yahtzee.
Royal flush. Yahtzee.
You got to
that's
fill
what it
in the
is.
different number
That's right.
spots.
You get 5 of a kind. It's Yahtzee all of a sudden.
You do well, yeah.
I got 5 death cards. Woo!
Well,
Wait
Mike,
a minute.
I'm gonna do some sharing.
You do some
if
sharing.
you want to explain the cigars that we have to Jeremy and give him an option of which one he'd like to smoke.
Absolutely. And everybody out there watching, thank you so much for joining us. It is the second, third podcast, and our second guest for the week, the chairman, the CEO, the president of Culebras Lounge right here, Jeremy McMahon. How you been, brother?
I'm great.
And then Frankie has got some pictures here. Okay, great. There we go. Some pictures for April's entries.
Only 3 entries this month, but I blame myself because March was my birthday and our taster, everything got so messed up that I didn't get April's birthday or best ash contest picture up about mid-April. That's on me.
We'll have to figure out something about that then. Yeah, I don't want to blame him too much, people, but I am gonna blame him. It is what it is.
I
yeah.
reading.
But while Frankie does his sharing, we do have some cigars to smoke today, guys, and we're going to stick with ours. You can see the deal. It is listed below. If you want to check out the site, you can get some right there. The first link in the descriptions. And then if you would like to go a little further into that, I'd really appreciate if you guys would check out our sponsors, Artista Cigars and Cigar Heritage Festival with 3 locations. You have Escondido, you have the Cigar Cathedral, and the new Cigar Heritage shop that opened up in Florida. The soft opening was just a couple weeks ago.
Mhm.
And apparently it's doing very well. So I'm excited to hopefully, knock on wood, in December when we go back, if they'll have us still, we'll go check that out.
You can't come.
That might. I'm always afraid of that. I don't know what it is. Even if, because all the events we usually go to, we have someone to sponsor and cover us, which is
No cigar for you.
I'm waiting for that cigar Nazi.
Might happen.
But there we go. Look, we sent out a message, Richard. So don't even with me, sir. But the more important thing is what to smoke today. Now I have 3 options for you. Our cigars come in 4, but the last one we did, Trust the Process. We spoke both of that together on Monday. So we want to give that one a little rest. The next ones we have, though, come in the same blend with 3 different wrappers. Right. So we have our Connecticut, the Lucky You, which is a Connecticut over an Olo Dominicano binder, a little bit of Pennsylvania Lajero, Cameroon, and Dominican fillers. And then sticking with the same theme, you have that right there, which is the Made in the Streets, or Hecho en las Calles, and that is a Habano wrapper. And our last option for right now, thank you, by the way, that looks good.
But wait, there's more.
This is the one I'm excited to see what you think of
The
this
League
one.
of Assassins.
Yes, our Sumatra blend.
It's got a bunch of big fat turtles on it.
Yep.
Or no, those aren't turtles.
They're assassins.
Those are assassins.
One of them may be a turtle.
Right. They kind of look like Nacho Libre kind of guys.
Right. I feel like there's not enough heavy guys in that world.
Now this is the Sumatra.
Yes, that is
Right.
the Sumatra.
And I am ashamed to say I haven't had one of your guys' blends yet on the new line, any of the new lines. So this is going to be interesting, and I think I'm going to pick this one. This one's the Sumatra.
Yep.
So yeah, in Sumatra, unlike some guys, Sumatra is my favorite. And I guess Sumatra is actually Cameroon, but 5 generations removed.
Yeah, weird history to that.
Right.
But interesting. I feel like that would make a great episode alone. Just try to figure out how each of these blends and wrappers came to be, because new wrappers are actually coming out as we speak. They're testing new things. They're seeing if there is the possibility to mass produce in a proper quantity and proper quality at such high rates, because you can't just make one new cigar with a new binder, or a new wrapper, and we made a new wrapper.
So the pre-light draw, the pre-light smell on this is my wife's feet, as if she'd only had him in a shoe for 30 minutes. It's that sweet, musty smell.
What?
Where you want to stick your wife's feet in your mouth. Num, 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 num.
Okay, show canceled. Never mind. We're not doing this anymore. I give up cigars. You're never gonna get that out of my head now. What are you doing to me?
That cigar smells like Jeremy's wife's feet.
Jeez. Oh no. Because you're the first guy who told me about if you give a cold draw to the fire cure, you get like a fish scent.
Oh,
You
yeah,
get a
yeah.
fish taste.
No, I get that all the time. I hate it. That's why I don't like that
Yeah,
cigar.
You're ridiculous, first of all.
I
But
do
that's
not like that
I
flavor.
didn't.
No, that's the outside is my wife's musty feet, but this interior, the interior right off the Catboy, that is just barnyard hay. It's good smell. That's exciting.
So Frankie, you had the Hecho, so you're gonna go with the Habano wrap, and I'm going with the Connecticut here at that Lucky You, and then do my size. If dudes my size were the assassin rule, we would be we'd have to have high power rifles because we're not running after anybody. Understandable. I wouldn't either. I feel like we've evolved as a civilization. We don't need to run anymore. Okay, it's for sport and for hobby, not for survival. So keep me out of the running. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
But
yeah, I want a footband. I want a footband on there on the cigar that says Tammy's feet.
oh no, if you're gonna ask for that, then Melanie's gonna want that because
Melanie's feet, or
Yeah.
she wants my wife's feet. I mean, I don't know how she swings. It's all right. It's okay.
I'm not against
Look,
it.
I never mind. I'll start saying things I shouldn't be saying.
I've had this argument because I do not like feet, and she has pretty feet. Apparently, that's what people tell her. I'm not
Right.
the one who tells her that.
Right.
But
Yeah, feet aren't my thing. It just sounds funny. Sounds like fun.
if it fits, it fits. That's the important thing.
You said you went with the Lucky You, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I went with the final option that was on the table. So I'm having that Connecticut again, guys. And just for those who might be tuning in right now, again, they all have the same blend with different binders, or excuse me, different wrappers. Why do I keep saying that? Connecticut, Orlo Dominicano binder, Pennsylvania Lajero, Cameroon, and Dominican fillers across the board with that Sumatra and Habano rounding it off over there. Let me get these.
Oh, so
El Hecho, sorry, excuse me.
Hecho.
I don't thought the H is silent. No, not always. I don't believe.
Yeah.
But that is again, as you all might know this already, my Spanish ain't great. That has never been a secret.
oh, the next line. Instead of the band says Tammy's feet, it could say Fuchi patas.
See, then
Then
that would
more Spanish.
little by little, I'm hooked on phoneticing Spanish through cigars. I actually appreciate that because I do need to learn something now. Have you used a Great Smoke lighter yet? Yeah, I have. Well, not here. I got it over at the studio because I've got. How many lighters do we have in this place? Yeah, and it just gets a little cumbersome. And honestly, that guy, it's gonna do the job every time.
Yeah.
And if you even need a touch up, just kind of get one of the edges to one of the.
I am still waiting on my Oliva one. People know I love lighters that are orange. I don't know why it's my favorite color for a lighter. But the people that make this Cane Daytona also make the Oliva one that I've only seen pictures of, and it has that Oliva brown with the gold. And something about that lighter just looks so darn sexy. I want it.
If anybody out there, hit me up. Hit me up on Facebook. He's got another birthday coming up. I want to make sure that we.
That would be that'd be a crazy.
It's earmarked from our Oliva.
But it's the half birthday because we just celebrated your birthday.
We did.
Yeah. Well, we celebrate half birthdays in my family.
Yeah,
Because you know everybody, you got to have at least a cake once a month.
I feel like that's fair.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
And I thought that would work out for our family because there's so many little ones. Right. But then they decided to bunch their birthdays up, or
all of our birthdays are in June, so like every every December is full of cake.
Okay, so we get asked quite a bit, how we store our cigars, and we used to keep a couple humidors here and there, but slowly but surely, going to PCA, going to TPE, working with some of the different companies, having our own cigars, it became a big hassle on how we're going to store these things, how we're going to keep them humidified, how we're going to keep it at the right temperature, and we were looking at keeping a wall humidor until someone broke the glass to it. And then Jeremy, you were the first person to tell us about Cooladors and how those were working. Uh,
Ooh, controversy.
can you tell people how you keep your cigar stored? Because
Okay,
you probably
so
have the most cigars of anybody we know.
yeah, I
That
got
feels
about
fair.
4,000 sticks. So there's a bunch of different ways you can store cigars. The best way is in a humidor. You don't ever want to like you go buy a humidor. When you go to buy one, always buy the next size up that you think you're going to have because you're always going to fill it.
So true.
And yeah, I mean it's inevitable. You'll buy a box of cigars and you'll put it in there, and you're like, oh well, it's full now. Well, buy one. If you only buy a box of cigars, buy enough for two. And for two boxes. And make it simple. Put Boniva packs in there or whatever the brand name of pack that you like. I prefer Boniva, but you don't have to do Boniva. You can do whatever the other brand names are, or gel beads, stuff like that. And humidors are a lot like refrigerators. If you don't have anything in your refrigerator, it's really gonna struggle to run and keep moving. So what you want to do is you want to fill that humidor up to the brim and put your humidification device in it and shut it down and shut it up. Um, your cigars are already humidified normally when you buy them.
Yeah.
So you put them in there with humidification, you close it up, and then that'll season the humidor. You don't need to go wipe down the inside of the humidor. That just ruins the interior and can make it to where the water from the wood excuse me.
Bless you.
Oh my goodness. Will make it stick up, and then that can accidentally grab the wrapper of your cigar and tear it, whatever.
Yep.
So it's always best just put some humidification, and you're looking for about 68 to 72. Personally, I like 70 to 68. The darker the leaf, the more humidification it can take without damaging it. So you don't need to go pretty much anything over like 68 so I normally buy the 68 packs when I buy Boniva packs, and I buy a bunch of them.
That is true.
Now, but the way that I store them is a little controversial because a lot of people are like, well, that's not the way that you store cigars. We live in Bakersfield. Bakersfield is a very hot place, not very much humidity. And I store my cigars, obviously, in my house, in a closet, and I buy file folding holder uh, uh, plastic boxes, and I buy them from the local office store, and they're $19 a piece. They almost completely seal, and you don't need them to completely seal. You still need a little bit of movement because if you have them completely sealed, you can end up with some problems with your humidification, either rising too high. You still need the cigars to breathe a little bit, but I put mine in these boxes, and the lids come down on it, and there may be like a quarter of an inch or an eighth of an inch of at the very top. But the way that it bows over, and the way the lid comes down on it, it's pretty much sealed.
Yeah.
So I put my humidification packs in there, and a lot of times I just use humidification beads, and I put beads in big gigantic plastic containers with holes in the top, and that will do 250 cigars. Those file folding holders, they're about 14 by 11 by another 14, and like I said, each box holds about 250 cigars, and I just put the humidification, and then I put it up top and store it. I always put a hygrometer in there, and my humidity is always at 70. So I don't have a problem with it. The other thing is they come in different colors. These totes, these file folding totes, and I normally buy like the smoky color because I don't want any UV light to really penetrate that. But I also keep it in a closet with the door closed. That's not the only humidors I have, though. I have a big 150 quart gigantic white cooler door.
Yeah.
And then I'm running 2 small foot cooler doors that normally just hold like 24 cans. And I put all of my long-term aging cigars in those.
Now, a quick question on that part, the long term aging. Uh, One, do you date them somewhere? And two, do you keep them in the box or you take them out of the box for space?
If it has a box, I take the cello off of the outside of the box and just put the box in the humidor.
Full box.
The full box.
Yeah.
Might as well. Because a lot of those boxes in the long term humidor is only for high end cigars, sticks that I purchased, and that uh, they're either limited release or they're really expensive. My Atabays, my Byrons, my Fuentes, my Opus X, a lot of my Tatuajes, and so that's how I store those. And when I say long term aging, I'm putting humidification beads in there. I'm putting a Govee hygrometer so that I can look it up and not have to ever open those boxes. The only time I open those boxes are for like special events, and I'll go I'll go and open those boxes up maybe 4 times a year. So you're really not having to fill your humidification beads or change out your packs very often because they're just you're almost putting it in like a suspended state.
Yeah.
So there's really and because you're not moving them around or whatever. Now I like to have a couple of boxes in there because if it gets a little dicey in there, the wood from the boxes will absorb the humidification. But still, they really the influx of humidification and also temperature really doesn't change a whole lot.
No, so temperature controlled room, not worrying about the sunlight.
Right.
I think people forget about the sunlight quite a bit.
Right.
Especially like glass top humidors, but you look really nice. Excuse me. But I've noticed if anything gives way for your seal, it's glass tops.
I only have one.
I made a mistake. That was the first one when we got into cigars. I got a glass top, but
it looked really good.
Yeah.
My first one is a loose leaf glass top and front side. So the front falls down and there's 4 shelves, and then the top comes up and there's shelves there. That one's almost a long-term aging humidor as well because friends of mine will, hey man, I want you to try this stick or keep the stick, or this was from this event or whatever. And so then they give me those cigars, and then I have a little Sharpie next to it and I write, who it was from, the date, so that when I go to smoke it, I always text the person after I smoke it or right when I smoke it, so I can remember who it's from. And also I have like little baggies, the 9-inch by 1-inch baggies.
Oh, okay.
And so say someone gives you a nude stick and you're like, well, A, I don't want this to be affected by any of the other sticks. And B, I want to be able to write down on it what it is, who it's from, the date and everything. And then I normally take a picture of me lighting it and I'll send it to the person. Or when I'm mid smoking it, when I remember, I'll take a picture and text that person, hey man, thanks for the cigar. This was great. I'm not going to tell them it's terrible because they gave me a cigar. But I'm also truthful. I'll give them some notes from the cigar where I'm like, hey, the pre-light was this, the draw was this. I mean, it's kind of like with this cigar here, it's burning perfectly, and the draws really nice and pretty, and the pre-light was sweet, and then now the smoke is real sweet. There is a leaf in here that's making my mouth a little bit dry, but not too dry. I hate it when you're smoking and you're smoking a stick and it's just your mouth's just all of a sudden becoming a desert and you're just like, ugh.
You need some water. You need something fast.
And I'm not big on cigars either that make you over salivate either. So you just have to. There are some cigars that are perfectly pH balanced because from what I've read and have heard, it's the pH balance in the leaf, not the leaf itself. that generates whether it's going to be too dry or too moist in your mouth from smoking that cigar.
Did not know that. Did not know that. It's interesting. Real quick though, Richard had a question before this one. Where to get the gel beads, the humidification beads? I want to say even Amazon has them if you look it up.
Yeah, I originally bought mine from eBay, and I bought so many of them. I still have, because the gel beads are really interesting. They absorb 433% of their weight
So much.
in water.
Yeah,
So I literally take 1/8 of a teaspoon. I've got, and I just have a teaspoon that's just for that, and I put that in there, and then I fill an 8-ounce tub with distilled water in that 1/8. It fills the whole thing.
So
Yeah. And to tell if you could see if you want to see how much is in there, then I also take a little drop of food coloring like blue or red or green, and I just do 1 drop in the water, and it absorbs into the bead, and then you can see the beads inside as they lose humidification. So you can that's kind of a that's the cheap. I've got 4,000 cigars way of storing 4,000 cigars and not losing them and keeping them. Now, every month I go in and I check everything except for my long term.
Yeah, do you open those up to rotate them though?
I do, yeah. And then periodically, because I buy so many, I have to go through them to see, okay, what do I have? What's the next thing I kind of want to smoke? The next event that we're having, because secretly I purchase so many cigars because we have events down here, and when we have events, I provide cigars and somebody provides food, or vice versa. But because I have a ton of cigars, I'm always doing that. And also, I also feel that many cigars need a lot more age on them than they already have. And I want to hand you a cigar that's at least a year old. And many times, I mean, I've handed you guys cigars that I've had for 10 years that have been sitting.
The ones that I won off of the first bowl tournament.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal, because you're saying I went to some great effort to store these so that you could have them and enjoy them. Now that can get into I can hear some people on the other end of this going, well, you're storing your cigars too long, you're not enjoying them as fast enough. And there are people that like, you don't need an age a Arturo Fuente. You don't need to age an Opus X. Most of your high-end cigars, they've already aged them already enough for you so that you would enjoy them. Say your Lord Byron's, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You don't look. Take that out of the box and smoke it. Smoke that right away. You don't have to age that stuff. Yeah. But you buy that second bundle that was manufactured at some factory that you sort of know, and they didn't age them long enough. So you take that bundle and you open up a little bit of the plastic on top, so it has a way to breathe. And I mean, that cello is already made out of cellophane, which is the oils, and they still breathe enough, but it still will allow it to breathe out and get rid of any of the gases that allow those tobaccos to marry.
Which is very important. And to think about that is what was I gonna say? There are plenty of cigars. I know a lot of guys all say, oh, there's a certain age where all of a sudden they just kind of
18,
lose. Is
18.
it? Yeah.
Yeah. She has to be 18.
Oh, that's a different age. I'm gonna worry about in another show that we do. But you look at some of these really well respected, almost ancient, it feels, lounges like in England, or you go to a certain island which makes a lot of cigars people really like. There you have stuff that's been sitting pre-embargo, things that have been there for a very long time. You take care of them, they're going to be fine. You don't have to smoke it right then and there to get that full flavor and to get that experience from that moment. Almost like a time capsule, in that moment of the same way like wine would work, where you can taste that harvest in that wine or in this tobacco. Right. You really can get that experience still. I agree with Paul. Cigars are meant to be enjoyed and shared. 100%. You're not gonna find much more generous people, I think, than cigar smokers and I think different like spirit connoisseurs. They want to share with people. It's not something you want to sit at home and do alone.
And not only that, it's
get it.
just I don't think Jeremy was saying he didn't like sharing with people. Because we know for a fact that he does.
Yeah.
And I mean, the reason I think he has so many is because every time he says he's gonna quit, he ends up buying like 100 more cigars.
Yeah, I always start out the sentence, "Forgive me, Father, for I've sinned. I've bought more cigars." And they all look at me and, "All right, well, your penance is you have to bring us one." But one thing what I didn't bring up was I started storing these cigars in these containers, these file containers, because I don't get me wrong, I've got Foot Locker humidors, I've got all kinds of stuff. But I had opened up my biggest, and I was about to buy a big wall unit, like a $4,000 big gigantic unit. I got the approval from my wife. She hated the idea, but she's like, "Look, if that's what you want, go ahead." So I was about to pull the trigger, and 2 nights before I was about to buy a really big unit. Excuse me. I'd opened up one of my humidors, and it was full of tobacco beetle.
Oh shoot!
So I call up one of my closest friends, and it was like 11 o'clock at night, and I go, "Oh no, you have to get over here. You got to help me go through these cigars." And I went through all of those cigars, and we found all the ones that had tobacco beetle. We took all the other cigars that we thought didn't have tobacco beetle, and we froze them. We stuck them in a freezer. We kept them in a freezer for 2 weeks. I took them out and put them in a refrigerator to thaw for another 7 days. And then I took them out from there and brought them to room temperature before I put them back into another different humidor. See, if I would have had a big, gigantic humidor,
you're worrying about every one of them, the top to bottom.
It would have been just the biggest nightmare of all. I mean, it was already a nightmare. I already had to mess with 250 cigars and look them all over. And you can tell some of them, but boy, those tobacco beetle, they can even eat through the cellophane.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's and when you smoke them, it's like smoking a piccolo. You have to keep your fingers over the holes, and so you'll have draw and whatever. And then every once in a while you hear a pop because you're popping a beetle. And I mean, that's fun, but that's not the fun I want to have.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
You experience it once, you're good. Yeah,
honestly,
I think you should. If you haven't done it out there, and you have a chance, because I hope you never have to worry about it, but just once, at least once, try it. It's pretty funny.
Right. Yeah. I'm getting a lot of really good flavors off of this thing, by the way.
Have you ever had to deal with mold? And the reason I ask is I'm not going to name the shop, but it's not one of the big cigar places here in town. It's one of those ones that we sell beer and liquor. We also have a small humidor.
Yeah.
Oh man, I went into Morro Bay, right? Go into Morro Bay, and I told my wife, I go, man, I forgot my travel door, but we're going to Morro Bay. I'll just stop in, buy a cheap lighter. I've got a razor. I can cut the edge off with the razor.
Good to go.
Yeah, and I'll just buy a cigar. She's like, oh yeah, no problem. Hey, get me a flavored stick. And so I walk in, and the guy's like, how you doing? I'm like, hey, show me your cigars. And he walks me over to their sizable cabinet. Every stick had mold on it. And I'm not talking like a little bit. It was like they'd been growing cheese in there, and there was like thick mold over. And I looked at the guy and I go, hey buddy. He's like, yeah. I go, do you smoke cigars? He goes, no man, I don't smoke cigars. I go, okay, well that pretty much explains this. And I said, all these cigars in here, you got to throw all those away. I go, these are all bad. And I mean, look, if there's just like a little bit of mold on a cigar, boy, I wipe that bad boy down. If there's a little bit more than normal, I'll wipe it down with like a wet rag that's got like a little bit of rubbing, or not rubbing alcohol, but vinegar, white vinegar on it, and then let the cigar dry out and then smoke it. But really, if there's too much mold or a questionable amount, life's too short to get sick. Yeah. I don't have time for that nonsense.
And that's exactly the situation we ran into here in town. There's this place. They said, "Oh, you guys do cigars, right?" Yeah. Can you check out our selection, see why people aren't buying? every cigar had mold. I was like, you can't sell these. You're gonna get people sick.
Yeah.
Right.
And she's like, oh, I had no idea. The boss checks it every 6 months, and I was like, you
Maybe
gotta check a little bit more often
a
than
little
that.
more often
Right,
than
right.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, I felt so bad telling her. I was like, you gotta get rid of all these.
Call Jeremy. He'll tell you how to do it.
Oh, it's a nightmare to see that. But I will say I don't see that happening that often, which is good.
Right.
I feel like it is a lot more of those stop and goes where they want to have it there. Sure, that's great, but someone's got to at least do a little bit of research just to make sure something like that's good to go.
Well, it's there. Cigars have that Goldilocks. It's too little humidification. You'll smoke the cigar and it'll taste acrid. It'll taste gross. It'll burn up too quickly. Draw can be a factor. And then the opposite. If you have too much humidification, it won't stay lit.
Yep.
You'll have draw problems. It'll split on you on your really delicate Connecticut's. They'll split right up the middle.
Oh yeah.
And kind of like blow out on you.
Yeah.
And so that's why I was saying, look, anywhere between 68 or 68 and 72. And really, I really do think that you could even go down further in like your Maduros, your real thick leaf cigars. You can get down below 60, or not below 60, but close to 60 degrees or 60 relative humidity and be just fine. And it won't taste bad.
Is that also because of the natural oils that are in there helping it?
Right. Yeah, and they're not going to explode on you, or canoe or have any problems.
So even after a month, like I said, you got to use distilled water. It's a very smart thing to. It's a necessity. It's one of those. It's sitting right next to all the others. Just go for it. I totally get that, Jeff. That's got to suck though to come home after going on a nice vacation, seeing the family. I think that's probably why you were there, and then coming back. And then you have to deal with that.
I will ask which vacation, because it seems like Jeff is always on vacation.
On vacation.
That's what he does now. He's living the life.
Didn't you go to like a Renaissance fair or something?
Yeah, that was pretty recently, right? Let us know in the comments.
I was wondering if you could smoke a cigar there. That'd be kind of cool.
It's not time period accurate. Sorry.
No. You're so true.
Sure, it was 1500s.
Not in Europe though, right?
Yeah.
Columbus
introduced
came back with tobacco.
It was introduced. Well, no, it wasn't. It was Sir Walter Raleigh that brought cigars to Queen Elizabeth, and I believe that was 1560, somewhere in there, 1562.
Well, because Columbus brought tobacco back from here, not here, but
tobacco. He bought tobacco though, not cigars.
Oh, you know what? You might be right. You might be 100% right.
Because before that, it was mainly like a snuff and a ritualistic thing.
But no, he brought tobacco and turkey.
Sure.
Snuff is awesome.
No, I'm good. I'm good. Honestly, I've never. I went straight to cigars. I didn't smoke anything else. I had 2 cigarettes in my life. Both times I was drunk, and both times a pretty girl offered me. That's the only reason I smoked it. And I was like, "Oh, my mom's gonna hate me for this," but never. It's not for me. There's no other form of tobacco I want. I get pipes. I think they're really great. I'd love to get more into that, but this is where I want.
I got a great snuff story, and it's not the kind of snuff you're thinking about. So this is the snuff that you put on your hand, and it's ground burley, and they finely grind it, and they sometimes put like a flavoring in it flavoring. It smells like peach or smells like mint or whatever. Yeah. And they come in little round discs, and you turn the disc and you tap it because it's got a little hole in it. You put it on your hand and you go and you sniff it up into your nose. And I'll tell you now, if you're sick and like your nose is congested, the side that's not congested, because normally when you're sick, one side's congested, the other side's not, or vice versa. You go off and you do that one side, and it'll clear up the other side, and then you can do the other side. But that's not why I'm telling you the story. We went to a friend's. We met halfway, and with my wife's best friend and her husband, and he loves cigars, and I love cigars. And we sit down, and we always have something. But where we were meeting, it was 115 degrees outside.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
And we were going to a restaurant. We were going to have margaritas and Mexican food and whatever, but we couldn't smoke inside, and we definitely couldn't smoke outside. And so I told my wife, I said, I'm gonna bring some snuff. And my wife goes, I hate that stuff. I hate when you use it. And I go, oh, but it's great. It's a lot of fun because you do it and it gives you this rush, this like jolt when you do it. I know this is a cigar podcast, but
It
this is
fits.
a funny story. So we sit down at the table and we eat our food and we're drinking our drinks and life's good. And I said, "Oh, hey, I brought a post aperitif, and which is a drink that you drink after the dinner, post aperitif."
Yeah.
So I said, "But it's not a drink; it's snuff." And her husband looks at me and kind of cocks his head, but he's the type of guy of, "Hey, stand back, hold my beer." And you give him a challenge like that, he's like, "Oh, I'm all in, right?" So and my wife goes, "Well, show him how to do it." I go, "Okay, yeah, no problem." So I put some on my hand and I take just the biggest draw. And normally when that happens, your eyes water a little bit and you might even sneeze. And so I do it and I act like nothing's wrong. And I go, "Oh, that's so good." And my wife, without missing a beat, grabs it from my hand. She goes, "Oh yeah, this is so easy." My wife has never done it before.
Oh no.
And she does it. She puts it on her hand and she goes, and she does it exactly how I do it. And she kind of looks away to go, "Oh yeah, this is great." And her best friend and her husband grab it, and her husband grabs it and he puts a dime size amount on his, like, you're wanting to put a pea size amount. You don't want to do a dime size. He puts like a dime size amount on his hand and he sniffs it up and
Poor guy.
he almost passes out. And you should have seen the face on him. And he's like, "Oh my God. Oh my God." He's like grabbing his wife and grabbing me. I think I'm gonna die. Oh my God. And oh my God. We just laughed for hours. And of course his wife did it and she did the same thing. It was awesome.
That is such a mean trick, but hilarious at the same time. I'm glad you guys were both in on it too.
Oh, my wife wasn't in on it.
Oh, she just
She just played along. She, you know,
She-
been
she
married
saw
long
it
enough
come-
to.
she saw it
Yeah,
come, yeah.
she. Oh, I see the sense of humor that's happening here.
because it would not. I think it wouldn't have worked without that extra little
Oh yeah,
reassurance.
Yeah, she tapped it in.
Yeah, just
Got it
well,
ready.
if they both, then that's okay. Then let me go ahead. But I feel like that's been done to me plenty of times. Usually like spicy foods or something ridiculous.
The perfect straight man.
Oh man. Oh gosh. Yeah.
I see Jeff has a question there.
Any good cigar lounges in Fort Worth? There are some great ones. You go to
There's a
Old,
couple. I would say yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about.
I think it's Old Town
If
Cigars.
you go to Old Town Fort Worth, from where we were at the airport, there's a trolley that'll take you.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. You pay one price all day long. You can go anywhere you want on it, and has dedicated stops obviously, but stops almost right in front of the lounge. Or not? Sorry, it's not a lounge, it's a shop. There's only 4 chairs. It's for the owner and his friends, but you can buy your cigars. Right next door is a restaurant. You can smoke in the restaurant. Blew my mind the first time.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I was
It's,
like, wait,
That's glorious.
you can order food, order drinks, and smoke cigars?
Yeah.
The guy's like, yeah, no problem.
They have because you go to a lot of those places and like, oh, here's an ashtray and it's just a little tiny
Cigarette ashtray.
No, they have their full on long matches and good ashtrays for cigars.
Wow.
They have it on lock. Like they realize what they're doing. They've probably been partners forever. Those two
Right.
businesses. Wonderful combination. Definitely go there. I was not that hungry, so I just got a chicken Caesar salad or something light, and it was really good. Beer on tap. You can't go wrong. It's a really great spot. There is another one. I want to say it's called the Art House or the Artist Alley or something, or Underground
Bluff Arts, something or other.
I'll find the name for you, Jeff. I'll send it your way, because that one was really cool too. They didn't serve alcohol; you could kind of bring your own, but they do have a bar setup from what they used to be,
Mhm.
and they have cold drinks for you, so they'll give you that. And then if you want something else, it's one of those, bring it yourself and be responsible, like a lot of lounges do. I think that's really awesome of them.
Then there's another one that I hear a lot of people talk about: industrial cigars. I haven't had a chance to stop by yet.
Underground is good, yeah.
But industrial cigars I hear is really, really good. There's actually a cigar that you can only find in that area. Well, yeah, that area there and right across the border, Oklahoma. It's for the Texas-Oklahoma game, and it has the 2 R's for the Red River rivalry on it. One's in burnt orange, one's in red. And I've always buy a couple when we get out there because I like to watch that game. I'm a huge Texas fan, and last year's game was amazing. So you can find some cigars that you can't find here out there, which is always a lot of fun to do. And that's one of the things I like to do when we go out to different places is find stuff we can't find here.
It was pretty good too for being kind of. I would assume more local. I would assume it's just kind of celebration of the event itself. It was kind of like, not flavor wise, but like expectation wise. Like they had the Trump cigar, and we bought a couple after he won because he voted for him. I didn't, but whatever. And I smoked it, and it was actually pretty good. Or like the Maker's Mark in the tube. I wasn't expecting that much. I was like, these are probably just kind of some extra. Tasted very nice. That's exactly the experience I had.
That's a great cigar.
I didn't realize how good it was going to be. I went in very low expectations, just
Right.
thinking, okay, so they dipped it in some Maker's Mark. I like Maker's Mark, sure, but I'm not going to smoke it.
Right.
But now I am because it was pretty damn good.
Right.
So very much impressed. And the Red River rivalry was very nice. Come to Columbia, the Nostalgia Stop, fantastic restaurant, and they bring your food, drinks right over to the cigar lounge. That's cool.
That is cool.
Or quality bottles of adult beverages he has forgotten about that you can name. I love that. There is I wish there are some liquor stores in town I wish could serve and let you try stuff out because I know they would do you justice right there. Green Acres, it does not look like much on the outside. Like you would not expect once you walk in to need to go sideways in certain aisleways because there's just so much in there they have in stock from your average everyday stuff that people are looking for, so they sell it on the regular, so they have to keep a lot of it, to bottles that I have never heard of, and then they can give you recommendations day in and day out.
That's one thing I kind of like about a lot of the liquor stores in Bakersfield. There's one down by Don Perico's. They've got all. If you can buy Scotch, they've got it.
Nice.
If you can buy bourbon, they normally have
Don
it.
Perico's.
Yeah, the Don Perico's at Callaway and Higman.
Oh, that's the liquor store I get my craft beers from.
Right, and they've got like a whole craft beer aisle.
Yeah.
And they're Russian and they barely speak English in there. But I mean, whatever, who cares? And they've got all kinds of
wonderful bottles.
Or if you have someone say, "Oh, well, I'm looking for this particular," and they've got it. Yeah, they've got it. I mean, it's like going to a really weird Bevmo that just has all the weird hard liquors.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
Bevmo's cool and all. Don't get me wrong. I'd still like to go there, but if I can go to the other guys first, Winchester's is another one. Or Winchester or Westchester's? Winchester's. That's another good one.
The one on 19th?
Yeah.
On
F. Yeah,
F and 24th?
Yeah.
They used to have full-on cigars in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they have them anymore.
No.
Ash finally fell off.
That was a good one, though.
But it fell right into the ashtray, yeah.
Oh, good luck.
But yeah, so we go to that one for the craft beer stuff. And then we go to Green Acres for the bottles because the guys, they give us discounts. So.
I think it's interesting. You have some of these sites where guys are trading or selling.
Yeah.
And somebody somebody was selling a bottle. I went, I can go down to my liquor store and buy that right now. Why? But I guess you just don't realize, that we live in California and it's easy to get booze.
Yeah.
But it's hard to get good cigars for a decent price. Whereas most people in other states can get great cigars at a great price. I think Florida is one of them. And
we were at Cigars and More on Monday, I think it was,
something like that,
or maybe Saturday, and this guy, his girlfriend, and his Uber driver come in the shop.
It sounds like a good joke.
We were just happened to be having a cigar. He's like, I need some help, and Trina was busy. She's like, can you help him? I was like, yeah, no problem. And he starts pulling boxes of Padron off the shelf, the new Blackened from Jewish State off the shelf.
Yep.
Rocky Patel's.
Like buying boxes?
Boxes full on. Like, I think he bought 4 or 5 boxes of Padron.
Holy crap.
Yeah, everything they had in stock of the Maduro.
The 26.
26?
God bless him.
I was like,
did he get a discount?
Yeah. He got a good discount. I think he ended up spending like almost like $5,000.
No kidding.
And I was like, you do realize our taxes here? He's like, oh yeah, I love your taxes here.
What?
Canada.
Oh, gee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
so
cigars are at 3 times.
So he was super happy. He was calling his buddy. He's like, and they got this, and they got that. Grab a box. Grab a box. Grab a box.
Yeah. I think one of the coolest stories I ever had was my wife was on vacation. I don't vacation. My wife vacation, and so she's on a tour in Washington, and they were about to change. No, it was Oregon. They were about to change their laws to where like they had to pay their taxes on all of their cigars again for some strange reason.
Ugh.
And the tobacco shop just said, you know what, we can't afford that, so we're just going to sell everything and close shop. So my wife walks in. She goes, "Oh, I heard there's a sale going on in here." And she's walking in, and she goes, "This place." She calls me. She goes, "This place is full of cigars, and everything is like 60% off." And I said, "That's the way I like your clothes, 60% off." No, what I said was, "Well, put me on FaceTime." And at the time, it was the very first time when you could FaceTime on your phone and it was relatively a good quality and whatever. And so she starts panning the phone over his stock and his inventory, and I'm naming off all of the cigars that she's coming across, and I go, "Oh, stop! Buy everything in that box." And then I'm like, "Okay, that's such and such, that's such and such, that's such and such. Stop! I want that one." And the owner overhears this and goes, "Ma'am, do you need a bag or a basket or something?" So then he comes over and he grabs the phone. And so we're talking the whole time while I'm doing it. And he goes, "Man, I wish I could have a person that knows so much about cigars like you." He goes, "You know more about cigars than I do." And I go, "No, no, no. I know what I like. I know these cigars, but he had a lot of he had a lot of just American market standards, but he did have some limited release stuff. And I think I got about $2,500 worth of cigars that day.
Ooh.
And and of course, my wife doesn't ever talk about like how much I spent on cigars, and that was one day that we got done, and I paid, and she has my company credit card, and she paid for it, and she calls me back like after she grabs it all and gets in the car, and she's like, "You crazy son of a bitch! I can't believe you just bought. Do you know how many cigars you have at home?" And I got an earful, but it was great though.
I was like, well, you can't pass that deal up.
You
though.
can't pass that deal up,
Yeah.
man. When you find a great deal, I don't care as long as the cigar is fairly decent, I'm gonna buy it
Yeah.
because I'm gonna age that cigar a little bit longer, and then it's gonna be a great cigar. Which not all aging. Don't get me wrong. Not all aging of all cigars makes the cigar great. It helps a little. I mean, if you buy a shit cigar, excuse my language, if you buy a bad cigar and you age it for 3 years, you still have a 3-year-old bad cigar. I mean, there's just no way around that. But
Yeah.
but not always.
No, not to cut you off though.
Shoot.
There was a cigar that we really liked, and it was the Cedarwood or Cedar Room Select. It was wrapper binder solid leaf, but all the inside was just chopped up bits.
Okay. Yeah.
But I still love
Yeah,
the cigar.
Fuma.
It just tasted great to me. If you took I forget, loose leaf cigar, whatever you want to call it, the chopped up stuff. If you age that, do you think it'll work the same way?
Well, no, because
No.
so the aging process is kind of interesting because it's technically a marrying process. So they roll the cigar, they break it in half, and then they stick it together, and then they bind it, and then they wrap it, and wrapper, binder, filler, and there's not enough variance between the two because you're taking clippings and things that they've used the Chevette to cut off, and all that. The cigar industry is interesting because all of it gets used. Period. And getting those fumas, which is normally if you have a cigar and it has the word fuma in the description somewhere, that's going to be a loose leaf cigar instead of a regular cigar that's got like 5 to 7 leaves
Yeah.
that have either been rolled into bar, which is where they roll every individual leaf into a roll so that it draws properly, or they use a Lieberman, or they bunch it a certain way, and putting the Lajero in the middle so that the cigar lights properly and stays lit properly. Whereas a Fuma, it's going to ash very quickly.
Yeah.
It's not going to hold its form where you have an inch and a half, almost 2 inches of cigar right there.
You wouldn't get this unless you're smoking Pariah, really.
That's a high quality, and that's high quality, and really same way with this one. I mean, I've gotten I'm at an inch, and every time I've tapped off it, I've had an inch on here. I'm just trying to do it from dropping on the floor because I don't like to pay the cleaning lady that much. So it's not going to age and change too much. You might heck you might, but really by the time it gets cut and it gets put into the pile of the Fuma pile, it's already aging quite a bit rapidly because it's been cut up so much.
So yeah, it's so
the
much
surface
smaller.
area.
Yeah,
is
there's
so
more.
great.
Yeah, there's more surface area for the oxygen to hit it and for the ammonia to lift off of it. And that's why a lot of people like Fumas better sometimes because they're gonna use a quality wrapper and a quality binder because there's no it's going to have a faster draw.
Yeah.
A lot of people say with Fumas that you should only, do a small cut on the bottom or do a punch cut so that you're not getting a bunch of loose leaf in your mouth when you're smoking.
That's very fair. I think that's the time where like the cigar select draw would be a
Select
good
draw.
call because they have those small 3 needle kind of situation, a little bit bigger than needle, obviously, but and just the fact that you got to smoke this a lot slower too, because when you're burning those little pieces, all of a sudden you feel that heat right in your fingers down to here.
Oh yeah.
So you got to be real careful with them. There's a lot of really good ones out there, like you're saying, like the Papas Fritas, the Nasty Fritas.
Right.
Those are short fill,
Right.
and they're really delicious. It's all
best cigar ever.
legal leaf,
Right.
just put into a little guy. It's delicious.
Yeah, one yesterday.
The
I like the nasty.
the Nasty's wonderful, but
Right.
the
I like it nasty.
oh, I definitely do. But what the heck was it called? The Cedar Room Select. I feel like we could have aged some of those, but I don't see it getting better because I don't see a lot of strength in those short fill either. Just because you're just throwing whatever's left, it's again, like you said, it's still good, but you're not looking at strength in those cigars. You're looking at some nice flavor. Definitely not uniform flavors because it's just
Right.
whatever
Little bit
mix
of
they
this, little bit of
decide.
that
Yeah.
mixed together.
So if you're gonna age that, I don't see you because then like some guys will age it for their box, smoke a couple now, 6 months, a year out, and they can see the difference and they like to experience that. I think that's really cool. You're not gonna get that experience with a short fill. It's kind of impossible because it's always something eclectic. It's a nice word for it, I think.
Well, and I would say that most of your fans, they probably smoke a cigar to 2 cigars a day. That would be that I would think because guys that only smoke 1 cigar a week, they don't care about a video cast that's telling them about cigars. They just walk in their local place, they buy 2 or 3 cigars, they put them in their humidor, and then they smoke them over the month, and then they start over
And
again.
you're good to go.
Or they belong to a service like Luxury Cigar, or some of the other ones, where they're. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm a luxury cigar person. I get the both of the what's the palladium and the platinum.
Great stuff.
I get both of those every month, and boy, talk about a value. I mean, you just can't go wrong. What's the one that Mitch is in that does really well?
Probably the Hustler one, I
That-
think. The Cigar Hustler.
The Cigar
guys?
Hustler.
Yeah, I think so.
And man, he just he gets some great sticks in there, and it's real economical. We have to really look at our economics in in California.
California,
Yeah, those taxes.
Because those taxes just break you over the rails.
Which I tell people that's another really good reason to join a club. I mean, even though we like to support luxury, it doesn't have to be luxury. Any of these clubs,
Right.
I mean, you're getting a great deal, especially when it comes to
I go
California.
so far as to go with Smoke In because I think it's 30. You're still getting 5 sticks, and they're not like the other guys. They like to put in those exclusive to them or something you've never seen before. While Smoke In will be stuff that I usually either have had before, but I'm not buying it again because it's just
Right.
kind of pricey. But I like them a lot.
Right.
So it reminds me, like, damn, this is a really great cigar. I got it at a really great price. Maybe it's time to go back to the local lounge and grab another one. It's worth it.
Right.
It's worth that, 2 to 3, sometimes $4 extra here in
Right.
California. And you can get 5 cigars a month. For those guys who smoke once a week, you have an extra one to share with a buddy. It's great.
I like I like to bring up the Cigar Authority, because those guys, it's $29 for their pack.
Mhm.
You get 5 cigars. You get an extra trinket every once in a while, like a lighter or a cutter or something interesting. They have a little challenge coin that they do every year, and it's a lot of fun, and you get to smoke what they're smoking at the
On the
same
show.
time on the show. They tell you in advance. You get a card. It says what the cigar is, flavor notes, and when they're going to smoke it. So you can pod up their podcast, and you can sit down and light up that cigar and enjoy it and listen to those guys talk about nonsense, but they always talk about cigars as well.
Oh, yeah.
And then their Tuesday podcast, they always talk about, there's about 25 minutes worth of more information that's a little in depth about cigars and tobacco. And really, you could listen to all the podcasts. You could go to all of the cigar tours. You could do all of that, and you still won't know everything that you need to know about cigar tobacco. I mean, I continuously learn new things, and just like I'm in awe of it. And the other thing is too is what you do remember, you tend to forget sometimes too.
Mhm.
So they do repeat some of the things that they talk about and do touch on different topics from time to time that are the same, but there's always a little bit of a change because there's always a change in technology. There's a change in uh, in the bread breaking business that I also am in. It's the flick of the wrist of how you're going to make that bread that's going to change how it looks or how it forms. And they do the same thing in tobacco,
Oh yeah.
and it's all of the time. And somebody will see something new or different or fresh. I hate to bring up Perdomo, but Nick Perdomo really does some really cool stuff. And one of the things he's been doing is he's been aging a lot of his tobacco in bourbon barrels. And boy, it really does transform the leaf quite a bit. And he'll reuse that bourbon barrel over and over and over. And one of the companies that sends him these barrels accidentally sent him a barrel that was full.
Mm.
And what he did was he's taking the bourbon out of that barrel after he's aging cigar or tobacco in the other barrels, putting more of that in it, swishing it around or painting the inside of it again, letting it evaporate, letting the alcohol evaporate, and then putting more and reusing those again. And how brilliant is that? That is that's just amazing to me that someone would think that and figure that out and make their line even better.
Yeah, like you said, you can't stop learning.
Right.
Excuse me. And it's wonderful to see from different, like you said, the different tours, different factories, how they have their own little secret ingredient they put into it, their own secret little method. And there's just so much that can be done with something that you wouldn't expect if you don't, know about it.
Right.
You would look at a cigar and you just think, oh, cigar is a cigar.
Right.
There's so much to it if you like to get into that stuff.
Well, I'd like to. I want to touch back about those fumas real quick. One thing about fumas that we mentioned is you're gonna want to either do a V cut or you're gonna want to do a punch cut on those because you don't want to get that loose leaf tobacco into your mouth. But the one thing that we didn't say about fumas is fumas are normally cost effective,
Mhm.
and you can normally pick up a bundle 60, 70, 80 bucks that's really good tobacco, and you don't feel so you don't feel so bad if you go to like a boys event where you're playing poker and you bring a bunch of cigars and you have a bunch of guys that they don't really smoke that often, but they do smoke at the deal, and they're only going to take 5 puffs off of it, and you won't feel so bad when you hand them that stick.
Yeah.
You're not handing guys like that Opus X or anything that's terribly expensive because it's not going to be appreciated. The other thing is too is they make excellent yard guards. If you're going to go out and mow the lawn or rake the leaves or do something that if you set the cigar down and then come back to it like 30, 40 minutes later after you've stopped using your hands to do that one thing so you can go back to smoking another, you don't feel so bad about it. Or if you do accidentally leave it outside all night and you're like, well, I lost the cigar.
Yeah.
You don't feel so bad about it.
Yeah.
And the third thing that I like about them, like you said, cost effective, is like you said, when you're buying a new humidor and you got to make sure that thing's full, they're a great way to help fill it up.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
In kind of on the Fuma kind of side too is it Toscano isn't Fuma, but Toscano's interesting because both sides open. It does not have to be kept humidified.
Blows my mind.
It's the best travel cigar, and if you have a friend with you and you're both just you're together and you want to share a really cool experience where, hey buddy, guess what I have? I have a cigar for both of us, and it tastes great, and it's going to be a nice experience. It's only going to be about 20, 25 minutes. You can break that cigar in half or take out your razor or your knife and cut it in half and hand him the half, and you have the other half, and you both smoke it. What a great, neat experience. And those you can light. Man, I've accidentally set a Toscano down outside and came back to it like the next day, relit it back up, purged it, relit it back up, and it was the same as it ever was.
Totally fine. Yeah.
And it was totally fine.
Yeah, those I do enjoy. I don't smoke enough of them. Toscano's some good stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and we only get so many varietals in in America and even in California. Whereas Toscano, they're the biggest seller in like in Italy.
Yeah.
Because that's where they're manufactured.
Yeah.
And everybody knows Toscano. And they have I think they have like 40 or 45 different flavors. And when
Holy
you
crap.
ask for a cigar, you're not asking for anything but a Toscano there.
See, that's impressive. I've only had maybe two.
Mhm.
It's not something. Yeah, again, not something I gravitate to a lot, but I've always enjoyed. It's because there's so many cigars out there
Well,
too.
and
It's hard to get.
It's also American tobacco normally. So
Yeah.
they import a lot of their tobacco from America directly to them, and then they roll it there.
So they're smart. I like that.
Mhm.
So, but at that point, guys, we are at our hour, and we did start late. I apologize for that, but thank you guys for joining us. Little review across the board here. Mine's going very well. I got past that band a little while ago. Still enjoying the heck out of it. Again, the link's in the description if you guys want to get a hold of him. Brian Toscano is Connecticut Fire Cure Tobacco. Yeah, and wonderful stuff. I love Kentucky Fire Cure. I love the flavors. So
You guys are wrong on that one.
it's a big plus for me. So you'll grow into it one day. It's fine.
Well, don't forget to support the boys with all their endeavors. They have a Patreon, and they have other ways to support them. Don't forget to support your troops with Cigars for Warriors.
Yep.
And
Sign up to be on the cigar rights too.
Right.
Get your membership.
Please, absolutely. And one of the I think last month they sent out a newsletter, and they're talking about how they're actually taking cigar rights internationally now, and they're starting to go and go into Canada and these other countries that are fighting
Thank
new
goodness.
cigar taxes and new cigar laws, and just saying, hey man, don't take away people's rights to smoke. They're not hurting nobody, and we're all polite. I've met very few impolite cigar smokers where if you're lit up, you check your surroundings and you make sure that you're good and everybody around you is cool with you smoking.
Yeah.
Cigar rights, it's really important. We need to keep those rights, and the only way we're going to do that is by supporting them as well.
Mhm.
It's true. Very true.
And lastly, you guys, we're still doing the raffle. We have 19 tickets sold as of today. Once we hit 50 sold, we're going to pull the raffle. And since we're almost at 25, which is halfway there, if we get to 25 by the end of the week, I'll throw in another 5-pack.
Ah, okay.
So we
All
get
right.
15 cigars total.
Well, boom. I like that.
So that we're 6 away. So if anybody wants to get some tickets, get a hold of us, and you guys get your tickets. Once we hit 50, we're gonna do the raffle.
And remember, for those who get 2 spots, $25 a spot. You get 2 or more, you get a secondary raffle in there.
Yep.
So you're gonna want to maybe get both. I think you're gonna want that. And other than that, guys, I think we're good. I'll be back on tomorrow morning for Great American Morning with Mel. I apologize for that. I had some technical issues on my end, so I could not help it this morning. But that is 5 o'clock West Coast. That is 8 a.m. on the East Coast for you guys. Cannot wait to see you again. And we'll see you Friday as well.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, guys. Y'all have a good one. Talk to you soon. And yeah, check out that link right there that Paul just put, cigarrights.org. Check it out, guys. Become a member if you can.
It's not expensive.
It's $25, I think.
That's right.
Yeah, it's great. Or get a raffle. Do both. Do both. All right.
Yeah.
I believe in you. Have a good one, guys.
See you guys.